We all know that a good night's sleep is absolutely crucial, but so many of us really struggle with it. So, what if we could turn fixing our sleep into a little science experiment? That's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to break down a fascinating case study that did just that and pull out some real that you can actually use tonight.
So let me ask you a question. Last night, how did you sleep? Pretty good? Okay, but are you sure? One of the most interesting things we're about to see is that how you feel about your actually going on inside your brain can be two totally different stories.
So here's the setup, and it's pretty brilliant. They take two people with really common sleep problems and have them sleep house. Their brains are hooked up to EEG trackers, are watching their every move, and a whole panel of experts is analyzing all that data to see who can make the biggest improvement in just one night.
All right, so let's meet our two subjects. I have a feeling their problems are going to sound pretty familiar to a lot of us.
So in one corner, we've got Greg. His big issue is that he wakes up a bunch of times every night to use the bathroom, but, other than that, he thinks he's a pretty good sleeper. And in the other corner, we have Melissa. Her problem is all in her head, literally. A spiral of anxious, racing thoughts about everything she has to do just keeps her from falling asleep. She's at her wit's end and just desperate for a solution.
Okay, so it's time for their first night in the sleep lab. This is the baseline. This is where the cameras and the brain scans are going to show us what's really going on when they turn out the lights. And boom, right away, the judges spot a big problem. Greg is having a midnight snack, a cookie to be exact. All that sugar and carbs means his body has to go to work digesting it instead of, resting. That late night treat is actively working against his ability to get that deep, restorative sleep. And meanwhile, what's Melissa doing? Oh yeah, the classic mistake. She's scrolling on her phone in bed. And the judges point out this is a double whammy. First, all the notifications and drama can get your mind and your emotions all fired up. And second, that blue light from the screen can actually stop your body from producing melatonin. That's the chemical that makes you feel sleepy in the first place.
All right, quick science recap so their scores make sense. I promise this is painless. We basically sleep in these 90-minute cycles that go through different stages. Now, the two you really need to care about are deep sleep and REM sleep. Think of deep sleep as what restores your body and your energy, and REM sleep is for your brain. It's critical for learning and memory. Getting enough of these two is the whole secret to waking up feeling fantastic.
So, after a night of tossing, turning, and doom scrolling, Melissa's score comes in at a 63. Not great. The data basically just confirmed exactly what she felt. It was a really restless, low-quality night of sleep.
But here's where it gets wild. Despite waking up all those times, Greg scores a 74. And the EEG scans revealed why. It turns out that in the periods he was asleep, he got a massive 2 hours of that precious deep sleep. And that explains why he felt so peppy in the morning, even though his sleep was constantly getting interrupted.
Okay, so we've got the baseline data, we know the problems, now it's time for the solutions. A therapist, Katty Morton, steps in to give each of them a very specific targeted game plan for night 2.
For Melissa's racing mind, she gets this amazing 4-step mental toolkit. First, a breathing exercise called 4x4 breathing to distract her mind. Second, and this is key, if the anxiety starts to spiral, she has to physically get out of bed to break that cycle. Third, do something calming, like read an actual book, no screens. And the final goal of all this? To retrain her brain to see her bed as a place for sleep, not a place for anxiety.
Now, Greg's plan is way simpler. First, the obvious one. Stop drinking so much water a couple of hours before bed. That should help with the bathroom trips. Second, to deal with any mental clutter, he's told to try journaling. Basically, just a brain dump. Get all those thoughts and to-do lists out of his head and onto a piece of paper so his mind can actually relax.
And then things get even more interesting. They throw in a twist. Each contestant gets a sleep gadget. Melissa gets a weighted blanket, which is designed to create this calming pressure on your body and stop you from tossing and turning. And Greg, our phone guy, gets a pair of blue light blocking glasses. The idea is they'll filter out that bad light that messes with melatonin. So they've got their new strategies, they've got their new gadgets. They head into night 2. At this point, they're not really competing against each other anymore. They're competing against their own scores from night 1. So let's see what the data revealed.
Whoa. Okay, check this out. Melissa's first result is just stunning. On night 1, it took her 24 minutes to finally fall asleep. On night 2, using those breathing techniques, just 11 minutes. She literally cut the time it took her to fall asleep by more than half.
And it gets even better. Her percentage of that super important restorative deep sleep jumped from a pretty average 24% all the way up to an above average 33%. It's so clear that the mental techniques, maybe combined with that weighted blanket, had a huge impact on her sleep quality.
But Then we get to Greg. And he made such a critical mistake. He basically saw the blue light blocking glasses as a free pass to spend even more time on his phone before bed, scrolling TikTok. And the result? It took him 63 minutes to fall asleep. That's more than double his time from night 1. The gadget just couldn't make up for a bad habit.
Okay, so let's look at the final scores. Greg did improve a little bit by 4 points up to a 78, but Melissa, her transformation was just incredible. She improved by 27 points, rocketing from a 63 all the way to a 90, which is an amazing score. She is the undisputed champion.
All right, now for the most important part. What does this all mean for you? Let's take everything we just learned from their experiment and turn it into a practical playbook for our own sleep. Here it is, your action plan. First, create a wind-down routine. Be consistent. Ditch the sugary snacks and too much water right before bed. Seriously, put the phone away. Blue light is not your friend. If your mind is racing, try journaling or that 4x4 breathing trick to calm down. And remember Melissa's crucial lesson, if you really can't sleep, just get up for a few minutes to break that anxiety cycle. Because at the end of the day, good habits are so much more powerful than any gadget you can buy.
And this brings us right back to the biggest insight of this whole thing, and Greg actually said it perfectly. He felt like he slept badly on night 1, but the data showed he got amazing deep sleep. He felt like the glasses were helping on night 2, but the data showed they just enabled a bad habit.
And that's the real takeaway, right? Your feelings about your sleep can be totally wrong. The only way to really know what works is to try things. So, looking at that playbook, what's the one small, simple thing you're going to change tonight?